Hello everyone, welcome to PreAlgebra with Miss Betsy. I'm glad you're along for the ride today as we continue a brief discussion of fractions. Today we're going to be specifically talking about improper fractions and mixed numbers. Now if you happen to be using the same text that I'm using, we are in section 6.2, page 180 of Bob Jones University Press's PreAlgebra for Christian Schools. As always, you don't have to be using the same text as I am. This material is applicable across the board to anyone who is attempting to learn how to work with fractions and mixed numbers. Before we get going, I want to know, did you hear about the guy the other day? He went bungee jumping. You think, well, what's so special about going bungee jumping? Well, for one thing, I think you have to be at least partially crazy to bungee jump, but this guy was even more than that. This was a blind guy who went bungee jumping. And you know what? He absolutely loved it. It scared the crud out of his dog, but he had a great time. So, I am on page 180, and we are going to be talking about a proper fraction, difference with a proper fraction and an improper fraction. So first, let's just show this fraction here that I have divided into 4 parts. And I'm going to shade 3 of those parts. What a fraction is, the denominator, which is the bottom number of the fraction, tells you how many pieces one whole item is divided into. Our circle here is divided into 4 equal parts. Now, of course, they're not equal when I sketch it, but you understand that we're pretending that I sketch perfectly. The top number, which is the numerator, indicates how many of those parts we are counting. In this case, we're counting 3. So the fraction 3/4 represents numerator. That we have included 3 of 4 equal parts into which we have divided one whole object. The top number is the numerator. The bottom number is the denominator. Whenever the numerator is smaller than the denominator, that is called a proper fraction. Proper fraction. The numerator is smaller than the denominator, is less than the denominator. You know, it doesn't take very long for these pens to just completely run out, so I'm going to go ahead and toss this one aside and get another one before we begin our next sketch. And I'm going to use red here. I'm going to draw 2 circles. Circle 1, circle 2. Make sure that you can see both of these. We're assuming that they are the same size circles, and that each of these are divided into 4 equal spots. And I'm going to shade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm going to come up with a fraction that says 7/4. Once again, we have the numerator in the top. The denominator is in the bottom. This is considered an improper fraction. Improper fraction. What makes this improper? The fact that the numerator is larger than the denominator. Now, when you're working in algebra, we deal all of the time with improper fractions. Fractions where the numerator, the top number, is larger than the denominator. We do have the requirement that an improper fraction be reduced to lowest terms, like right here, 7/4. There are no common factors in the numerator and the denominator, so this would be okay. If, for example, this had been 14/8, that improper fraction was not reduced to lowest terms, so we would want to rename that as 7/4 before we used it, but it would still be all right. What we have here, you see the key difference between proper fractions and improper fractions? What happens when the numerator is, here I say larger than, it's actually greater than or equal to. The numerator is greater than or equal to the denominator. If we have a numerator 4/4, 4 parts out of 4, we've just named one whole, haven't we? So when we have an improper fraction, the number that's represented is at least one whole entire object. A proper fraction is only a portion of one object. 3/4, there's part left over in that whole. 7/4, we've actually used one whole entire circle and a portion of another. So what have you done up to this point in your math career? Well, if you have a proper fraction reduced to lowest terms, your teachers happily say, okay, this represents 3/4. Once you got into an improper fraction, your teacher said, top number's bigger than the denominator, top number's bigger than the bottom number, we have to rewrite this number, because with fractions we always want the numerator to be smaller than the denominator. What did she ask you to do? She asked you, or he asked you, to always convert an improper fraction to a mixed number. So you had an improper fraction. For example, you had your 7/4. And they asked you to convert that to a mixed number. So rather than writing this as simply 7/4, they said, I want to make it a mixed number. Now what do we mean when we're talking about a mixed number? Let's go back right here and draw a picture of what we mean by 7/4. So if we have 7/4, we have two circles here that we have divided up into. Each of these circles have 4 equal parts, and we've counted 7 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So this is 7/4, right? Well, what's another way that we could represent this? We could say we have 7/4 of a pizza, or we could say we have 1 whole pizza and 3/4 of a second pizza, which would mean that this could be written as 1 and 3/4. It's called a mixed number because you have a portion of that number that is a whole number. You have a portion of that number that is a fraction. 7/4 as an improper fraction has the same value as the mixed number 1 and 3/4. And we see this here very clearly with our picture. But how can you convert from an improper fraction to a mixed number? Well, something that's very, very straightforward, and you've probably done this a whole lot in prior classes. And you're probably noticing my voice is a bit different today. Got some of this creeping crud that's going around down here in Texas, so please excuse me as I drink a little bit more, but, you know, videos just continue. What does this fraction bar here actually say? This is telling us to take 7 and divide it by 4. This is the very straightforward way that you convert from an improper fraction to a mixed number. This says 7 divided by 4. Simply convert your fraction into a long division problem. 4 goes into 7 one time. 1 times 4 is 4. You subtract, and you have a remainder of 3. And you'll remember that a long time ago, when you began to do long division, you said that you would work this problem out, and this would become 1 remainder 3. As you were just beginning to learn how to do division. And then very quickly, or actually it wasn't very quickly, it took you a while, but you got to the point where your teacher said, you know, you can write that, instead of saying remainder 3, you can take your remainder and write it as a fraction over the divisor. And this is all that you have to do to convert an improper fraction to a mixed number. You perform a long division problem, write the remainder as a fraction over the divisor. So let me show you an example right quickly. 19/7. What do? We change this from a fraction into a long division problem. This is simply 19 divided by 7. How many times will 7 go into 19? Twice. 2 times 7 is 14. 19 minus 14 is 5. There's no 7. You cannot count 7 out of 5, so you have a remainder of 5. The remainder becomes the numerator. The divisor becomes the denominator. And according to our long division here, we see that the improper fraction, 19/7, can be written as a mixed number 2 and 5/7. So let's see, is that really true? Now you're really going to have to work with me on this one as I divide something up into 7. Well, maybe I'll do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that would 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And let's do this again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19/7, we have 2 whole rectangles, and we have 5 rectangles shaded out of a total of 7 rectangles. So you see that the improper fraction 19/7 really is 2 and 5/7. So this is what you need to do. You need to be able to convert from an improper fraction to a mixed number. How do you convert an improper fraction to a mixed number? You do long division. You divide the numerator by the denominator. You write the remainder as a fraction over the divisor. Now what are you going to do if you rename a mixed number as an improper fraction? So let's say that we have our mixed number 1 and 1/3. And we want to know how we can write that as an improper fraction. So let's just go ahead and draw a picture. We have 1, 2 wholes. Both of these have been divided into thirds. We've counted 1 whole one and 1 of 3 parts of the second one. So how many thirds is that? 1, 2, 3, 4 thirds. 1/3 written as an improper fraction is 4/3. Now there's a pattern that we use here because obviously we're not going to want to be drawing pictures every time we have to convert mixed numbers to improper fractions back to mixed numbers. So this is what we do. And I'm just going to go ahead and write it out the way your book says. It says, multiply the whole number by the denominator. The second step, so if we multiply the whole number by the denominator, 1 times 3, we get 3. Add the numerator to the product. From step 1. And then we're going to write that sum over the denominator. Write this sum over the denominator of that improper fraction. What is this saying? Multiply this whole number by the denominator. 1 times 3 is 3. Add the numerator to get 4. That becomes the numerator of your improper fraction. The denominator of the improper fraction is the same as the denominator of the fractional part of your whole number. What does that mean? In actual usage, let me give you an example. 3 1/5. Three and 1/5. The first step says multiply the whole number by the denominator. 3 times 5 is 15. The second step says add the numerator to that sum. 15 plus 1 is 16. And the third step says write your problem. Take that sum and use that as the numerator written over the denominator that's used in this mixed number. So 3/5 is equivalent to 16/5. And that should make sense to you without me taking much time to draw the pictures, even though I'm going to do it anyway. But this right here, where I've done step 1, step 2, step 3, this is where I've actually gone through and followed those written methodology that I showed you just a second ago. But this is more work than you need to show. But hang with me just for about a minute. First off, let me write 3 boxes here, and each one of these has 5 pieces in it. So we have 5 pieces there, plus 5 is 10, plus another 2, 3, 4, 5, plus another set of 5 gives us 15. And then we have 1/5. So 5, 10, 15, and 1 gives us a total of 16/5. We have 3 whole rectangles and 1/5 of another one. Easy way to remember how to convert from a mixed number to a fraction is to just draw yourself a picture. 3 1/5. We do an arrow here, and we're just going to say x for multiply. And I know I say don't use x for multiply, but I think you'd lose a dot. So maybe you'd want to say multiply out. Multiply, and then add. So you would say 5 times 3 plus 1. 5 times 3 is 15 plus 1 is 16, and then write all of that over the denominator. Multiply, add, write that sum over the denominator. So, a couple of quick reviews here. 8 2/3 is a mixed number. 3 times 8 is 24. Plus 2 is 26 with the same denominator. 17 1/3. 3 times 17, you might write this out to your left if you need to have some scratch paper. 3 times 17 is 51, and 1 is 52. 52/3. How about if we had 2 2/4? Well, you might want to correct that improper fraction there, but let's say you didn't catch it. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10/4. This fraction is not reduced to lowest terms. It has a common factor of 2. You can say 10 divided by 2, 4 divided by 2 is 5/2. Anything having to do with a fraction always must be reduced to lowest terms. This is all you do to convert from a mixed number to an improper fraction. You remember what you do for an improper fraction? You divide the numerator by the denominator, write the remainder as a fraction. If we have 8/7, 8 divided by 7 is 1. You have a remainder of 1. Your remainder is the numerator of the fraction. So 8/7, 1 1/7. These problems are self-correcting. If you have to convert your improper fraction to a mixed number, just go ahead and check it. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 1 is 8, 8/7. If you don't get the same answer going both ways, you know you've made an error in your work. We do one final example. And we have 14/3. It's an improper fraction because the numerator is greater than the denominator. We're going to do a long division problem. 14 divided by 3. You can count 4 3s because 3 times 4 is 12. You subtract, you have a remainder of 2, and you write that as the numerator with the divisor as the denominator. So according to our division here, the improper fraction 14/3 should be equivalent to the mixed number 4 2/3. Let's go ahead and take a second to verify it. How would I get from a mixed number to an improper fraction? What you do is you say 4 times 3 is 12, plus 2 is 14, written over that same denominator is 14/3. This is all you need to do to convert from mixed numbers to improper fractions. back and forth. And always remember to have all of your fractions, always and forever, they must be in lowest terms. What does it mean for a fraction to be in lowest terms? That means that there is no common factor in the numerator and the denominator. That means that you can't divide the numerator and denominator by 2 or by 3 or by 5 or by 22, whatever. There's no common factor. That's the conclusion of this video, and I will see you next time.